Morning everyone, it's nice to see all your smiling faces, even though I can't see if you are smiling or not, but anyway, let's crack on. I've just got off the train, I'm back in Laverack, so I'm back down west. West is best. And the reason why I've come home is I've got a few things to do before I embark up to Cardiff this afternoon and this evening, which I will do by bike. Now, I haven't ridden here. I have actually come on the train. So I've come on the train, it's fairly cheap. So I jumped on and jumped off, and I've literally ridden like 20 minutes. It's like 10k away. So it's a fairly easy spin to start off today. But this afternoon's ride is going to be around 3 hours with a few efforts in, and that will make it probably the biggest ride of the week leading up to the Nationals. So I was on the train and I just happened to be talking to this gentleman who works as a consultant for sustrans and like bike paths, all that kind of stuff, the infrastructure stuff. Like, we got chatting and I told him what I did, and I rode a bike, and he started asking me some questions, and it all turned rather interesting. And I told him about, you know, such great facilities we have, like down here, like with the cycle path network that we have that goes, you know, 10 miles north, 15 miles west, and like 15 miles south down to Mumbles. And he was like amazed, because he was obviously English, he had an English accent. He travelled all the way down here to see he was actually going to Pembury Country Park. We were chatting about it, and he couldn't believe how much like cycling infrastructure we had, and not just like single paths for cyclists or 2-lane paths, but like big wide things like roads. Alright, so before we go any further in this video, I just want to give a little shout out to one of the sponsors that has been part of my career this year, and they are Limar helmets. And the reason why I wanted to bring it up was because it kind of fits in actually with what I'm doing at the minute with hill climbing and stuff. And obviously I don't wear a helmet when I'm hill climbing, and you know, it's all this don't try this at home type of thing. But generally speaking, you know, when you're doing hill climbs, you don't wear a helmet, and that's because, you know, you're going uphill, you're going relatively slow, the risk of crashing is a lot lower. Most of the hill climbs are on closed roads now as well, so that's, you know, makes the safety factor a lot bigger. But still, it's always a possibility. But this year we've been racing on Limar helmets, with Limar helmets. When I first joined SwiftCarbon at the start of this year, I've got to be honest, I had no idea who Limar were, never heard of them. And then I remembered, oh yeah, that's the helmet supplier that Astana have. So I first got a chance to try the helmet like way back at the start of the year, and I remember it being really narrow on my head, and my head is quite narrow anyway, but it might be quite long. But either way, I remember it fitting like a lot differently to other helmets, so it's worth kind of going and trying on a helmet if you can. But I've got the two here, which is the Air Pro, and this is kind of like the vented masterpiece that they've created, extremely light at 230 grams for my medium, but it's like extremely well ventilated. Like, I cannot emphasize, and you can probably tell with the sheer amount of vents it's got. So they've actually wind tunnel tested this helmet, and it's come out to being something like 20% more efficient than the majority of their helmets that are ventilation based. There's actually like quite a few videos on their website, and it's really well explained on there. I was quite intrigued, to be honest, the descriptions and whatnot on there. But this is probably my favourite, and I've managed to nurse it through a whole season, which, much to Limar's surprise, that I haven't crashed in it. I've not like, I think the only thing I've ever done is like actually dropped it on the floor, and it's got a bit of a dent in it. But in terms of like aesthetics, I actually really like the look of the helmet. I mean, you've seen it in videos enough, but I really like it. It's got a few chunky vents in the front and some on the back, and that provides like quite good airflow in my opinion. But again, this has been wind tunnel tested at like 40k an hour, which is kind of like your bog standard speed, and has come up with some good results. I'm actually like really impressed that Limar have managed to branch out as well into like the triathlon world, and are making strides there, if you pardon the pun. They're actually, I mean, triathlon is starting to go down that route of being very, you know, aerodynamic based and science based, and for these guys to be making strides there, particularly with British triathlon, and I just thought I'd tell you about them, as this hill climb season doesn't really require me to wear a helmet. You probably are wondering why. You know, if you're not from the UK and you're not familiar with it, then you'll probably wonder why I'm not wearing a helmet during competition. That's because it's not obligatory, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't wear them, because the air speed, which is this one right here, I actually wore to a victory in the Cat and Fiddle hill climb the day after the Tour of Britain. So I rode this in the Tour of Britain in the stage race, and then the next day I raced using it in the Cat and Fiddle hill climb. The reason why I did that was because it had like a descent section in it. It was a very short descent, but it was quite like technical and greasy at the time, so I didn't want to deck it and crack my head open. So I chose this, and I averaged something like 30k an hour up the climb, and I know that's a way off the 40k an hour wind tunnel test, but it does make you think, you know, did this help me win that hill climb? So worth considering. Okay, normal service being resumed. I'm out on the bike now, and I'm on my way back to Cardiff. The traffic is very heavy, so I'm gonna have to be a little bit careful here, but alright. I know this commute pretty well. 85k commute, but beautiful evening. It's about 4 o'clock in the evening. Sun is like starting to go down, like right in front of me. It's really nice, but I'm doing some efforts. Surprise, surprise. We're doing some 1 minute on, 1 minute off intervals for a total of about 9 minutes. We're going to do about 2 or 3 sets, depends how I feel. Depends on the traffic as well, to be honest, but just sharpening the legs, keeping them sharp. But it's made me think about one thing in particular, and that's I've actually been doing a lot of my efforts the last month on flat roads. So a lot of people ask, like, how do you get good at climbing on flat roads? Well, obviously it helps if you have climbs, and I've done efforts on climbs over the last month, but I've actually done quite a lot of flat riding, and the efforts I've done on the flats have been like very strong, kind of power-based efforts, especially these 1 minute efforts. You know, they're 450 500 watts. They're not cruising, that's for sure. But I think what it's teaching me on my legs and my body is to just keep pressing, because you don't have that resistance that you do on a climb. So you have to keep kind of pushing through that whole pedal stroke, and it's something that it's made me a little bit interested, actually. And it's quite nice as well, because I don't have to climb, I'm saving my legs. There's a guy waving to me in the car. Only if you follow the vlog. Subscribe! So our second block done. I just want to share something with you that might be maybe of interest. You know how like we talk about how fitness can be measured in many ways? Well, here's a really super fun one that you can do if you ride with a power meter and a heart rate monitor. This is quite a fun one. So for me, doing these 1 minute on, 1 minute off efforts, my heart rate at the end of that minute on probably peaks around 166 to 170. So it rises pretty fast. And it usually starts at like, you know, 130, 120. But then the fun bit is the recovery section. So we don't always talk about like how, you know, how serious to take a recovery. On kind of yesterday's video touched on that just a little bit, but this is quite a fun way to recover. So you're trying to get your heart rate as low as possible, and it means you're recovering right. So for me, in a minute, from 170 I can generally bring it down to like 140, 130 at a push, and that's if I'm pedaling at kind of 100 watts. So not completely like freewheeling, but you know, just minimal pedaling. It's quite a fun way to like spice up your rest. You're like, oh, how good can I rest between these efforts? Because at the end of the day, if you're not resting, it depends on the effort you're doing, but for these in particular, if you're not resting properly between them, then the actual reps when you're going on tender supper. Traffic light number 1297. It's one reason why I don't like coming this way, but it is the most direct route to Cardiff down the A48, and it's like I said, it's just shy of 50 miles. So speaking of heart rate, you know how, like, if you think about something, or if, I don't know, maybe something prompts you to a certain memory or something like that, your heart rate spikes, the adrenaline rushes. Well, that's kind of what I'm getting right now. Well, not right now, but when I'm out on the bike now this week in particular, and it's been happening the last 2 weeks. But whenever I think about Sunday, I get this spike, and it's amazing, you know, when it happens on the bike. Say if I think, you know, I'm riding along 130 beats a minute, and I just think, you know, I think about Sunday, I think about what it's going to be like, I think about the effort I'm going to put in, the power I want to hold, all these kind of thoughts about performance. And we read about it all the time, you know, that like athletes today with their mindset coaches and stuff, they talk about how the vision is extremely important, and almost putting yourself in the shoes before you're even there, focusing on that one pass, focusing on landing that shot or hitting the ball dead center. It's like, when I think about the hill climb, it just gets me going. It really gets me going. Woo! The country boy is back in Cardiff. Yeah. City living. City living. Man, it's so hectic right here. Take it back to the country. The city. What a nice way to finish. Where are we going, Boo?
Coca gelatos.
Aww.
Gelato.
I thought you were going to say coffee and
I want coffee and cake.
Question is, which gelato? Red velvet. Actually, red velvet cake on it. And I've gone for mascarpone and Oreo.